Hi, hello everyone. My name is Benga Bunjimi. I'm the founder and CEO of LDI Africa, and I have here with me my colleague.
Hi, I'm Trace Belcher. I'm Program Manager.
We're excited to bring this interviewing workshop to the finalists of the 2015 Summer Emerging Institutions Leadership Program. We know that you've all interviewed or about to interview with the LDI Africa Selection Board, and we have received feedback from the selection board that we have been able to put in a training format for as an interviewing workshop in order to better support, prepare you as you get ready to interview with host organizations. So pretty much we'll be going through in this webinar some interviewing techniques that we think you'll find useful. And this again is from the feedback from the selection board. So as we go, a few housekeeping announcements. There is a chat question and answer feature on the corner that we encourage you to use once we get to the Q&A. And once we get to the Q&A, we just want to encourage you to keep your questions related to the workshop. If you have program-related questions, you can email that to apply@ldiafrica.org. You can email that to the program manager, Teresa. But this interview workshop, it's strictly we're taking questions relating to this particular workshop. So I am going to turn the presentation from video. I'm going to switch it into PowerPoint, and then we'll continue the training. So give me 1 second as I move this to PowerPoint. Okay, as we go further, so pretty much I just want to make sure that everything is okay. Just let me go back to the presentation and see if everything is okay. I believe everything is going fine. Just 1 second, guys, to pull up this PowerPoint. Seems to be a little bit of delay.
please. And we can not do that and just talk.
Okay, so we're just going to go ahead without the PowerPoint. It seems to be taking a little bit of time to come up. So basically, the agenda for this call, I believe the screen is up now. The agenda for this call is that, for this presentation, is we're going through before, during, and after the interview with the host organizations. After which we'll cover a few tips on the frequent, the common questions that you would encounter with the host organizations. Then there's going to be a Q&A section that you can chat in the questions that you might have, and then we can just make some announcements if we have any for this call. So pretty much this session is before the interview. Before the interview with the host organization. So pretty much we're looking at what are the things that you should be doing by the time that you receive an email that says that you are being shortlisted to interview with an host organization. So pretty much I'm just going to let Teresa talk about how do you, what is your process in letting the candidate know that they've been shortlisted and what are the things that they have to do.
Okay, great. Thanks, Benya. So as I said, my name is Teresa Belcher, and I'm the program manager at LDI Africa. So I just wanted to take a minute to say congratulations to all of you and to thank you for taking the time to join our workshop today. Again, sorry for those little technical difficulties. So as I'm sure everyone knows, interview skills are something that are very relevant to your entire professional life. So we've designed this workshop to teach you proper tips and techniques so that each of you will be able to effectively present yourself to your interviewers in order to share your value and present yourself effectively. So in today's competitive business environment, interviewers are looking for candidates that are poised and prepared. Most interviewers make their judgments within the first 10 seconds of meeting a candidate, so it's really important that you get off on the right foot. So in doing this, it's really important that you efficiently prepare. So that means researching your organization, coming up with the questions that you want to ask, and so forth. So a really important thing to do, especially in today's interviewing environment, is you can use Google. You look up the organization, look up their growth, how they operate, what their mission is. It's always great to include their mission in your interview in some way. So also go into Googling common interview questions, and there's so many interview resources all throughout the internet. Small businesses love to give tips and techniques so that you can really get off on the right foot. But it's really important to kind of be able to be prepared to not only answer the most important questions, but to ask important questions. Interviewers are going to ask you why you want to work for their organization, to tell them about your most recent experiences and how they're relevant to their organizations, or your specific skills that are relevant. So a common mistake that a lot of people do when they're going through interviews is they tell interviewers what they want to gain from the experience as opposed to what they offer. So something really important is to be able to take the time to think and to be able to come up with a creative answer to why you would be an asset to their company, to be able to offer examples and stories and show how you have affected change in the past, how you're able to, and how you can do it for their organization specifically. So as I said, in order to answer these questions, you need to conduct the proper research for this organization. That includes the country, the specific position you're interviewing for. Think about it, write notes to yourself, come prepared with written questions. I find it best to have a specific interview binder. So that includes, up-to-date documents like your CV, your resume, your questions that you want to ask them, answers to questions that they might be asking you. So think about why your stories and responses will be relevant to this organization, and don't be too general. Really quickly, a few examples would be, what are the top 3 things you think that you could do that are useful to them? Your top skills that are useful, not just what you want to gain or you hope that you can do. As I mentioned, develop questions about their company and their work. This is your chance to interview them. The more you ask questions, the more interested you seem in their organization and the work they're doing. So this is an opportunity for you to learn more about what they do and what they're about. And it also shows you whether or not you'd like to work there. So in doing all this, it demonstrates that you have knowledge and interest, and that you're curious and excited, and that ultimately makes a dedicated employee down the road. So like I said, take time before your interviews to think about the questions and practice a response. Don't just have it jotted down, but think about how you can say it so that it comes across eloquently. Also in today's business environment, something that is becoming much of the norm is for a Skype interview, as with our interviews. So even if you're Skyping, even if you're interviewing in the privacy of your own home, it's still very important to dress nicely and look professional. You don't need a tuxedo or a suit, but it's nice to at least look business professional. Also, it's difficult with that to make sure that you're in a environment where it's quiet and the interviewer can hear you and there's no real background noise. So with all of that, I'm going to hand it over to Benga to discuss what to do during the interview.
Great. So during the interview, a few things to keep in mind is, number one, you would have received a notification from Teresa or from anyone on the program team, most likely Teresa, saying that you have been shortlisted to interview at this particular organization. So you would have a schedule and an arrangement at a particular time. So definitely you want to have the right time zones and the right information. And the interviewer should reach out to you also to confirm when that interview is going to happen. At the time of the interview itself, do not reach out to the interviewer, if they don't contact you at first. Chances are that they are trying to contact you and they already have it scheduled already. So before the interview, just wait and be available for the interview to contact you. Do not send an email and say that we are scheduled for 10:30 Eastern Standard Time on Skype, on phone. You just wait for them to be the one to initiate the contact. And if they are running late for the interview, they should let you know. And if you are the one running late for the interview, you can let them know. Remain confident and poised for the interview. Don't get flustered and nervous during the interview. Just be calm, and most likely it's going to be a video Skype interview, or it's going to be over the telephone. Get your thoughts together, be prepared, and just relax and just make it conversational as much as possible. Just try to be focused as well. Don't get too distracted. If you're on Skype, we encourage you to silence your phones and let people know that you have an interview going on, and they should just try to minimize distractions as much as possible. If you have internet connections issues, it is your responsibility to ensure that you find a more reliable internet. And just that you just make that first impression count with that particular interviewer. Also, if you find yourself that you're rambling during the course of the interview, watch out for that. Try to get your thoughts and your answers, responses structured as much as possible, and don't ramble during the interview. If you find yourself that you are it is okay to just tell the interviewer that I'll be happy to share more about this experience with you if you would like. And maybe you can email them after the interview, and thoughts you couldn't get to, you can send across to them. I would rather keep my responses short and simple and then long and just all over the place. So just try to get structured as much as possible. One of the things that we realized that the feedback from the selection board is that very few candidates finally sent thank you emails to the selection board. I think it's just courteous and professional for you to reach out to your interviewer, usually in a 24-hour timeline, and say thank you for taking the time to interview me. And if there's anything also you want to use that opportunity to highlight, maybe you have articles reading about you or YouTube videos or some kind of, research you've done that you think is relevant for that position or for the conversation that you didn't get a chance to get to during that conversation, it's a good opportunity to send that across to the interviewer and say, thank you. I just want to highlight again that I have this experience. I couldn't get a chance to talk about it, but ensure that that particular email is more of it's more of a thank you email to the interviewer. And I said, in the 24-hour timeline, it's ideally a good time for you to send it across. So now in the next section, we want to talk about how to answer common interview questions. And in our own interviewing with the selection board, the question we asked was, tell me more about your recent experience. But in this section, we're going through 3 important interview questions, which are, tell me about your recent experience, what skills do you bring to organization, and why should we hire you? So basically what we're going to do is that Teresa and I are going to do a role play, and I'll be asking the questions and she'll be answering, and she'll be asking me questions and I'll be answering as well. We encourage you to type the questions you might have into the chat box, and as we go along, and then we will take your questions, or we'll take your feedback rather, and then incorporate it into the next sets of answers that we are going to give.
So we are going to go into how to answer these questions specifically, and kind of show you as we go along. So 2 of the most important questions are the first and the last question. These are your opportunity to build a connection with your interviewer and show them that they would enjoy working with you, because that's what an interview is. They want to like you. Often the first question asks about your most recent experience. This is an opportunity to start by demonstrating through a story how you would be an asset to their organization. So at this point, there's going to be a role play of an interview, and we want to see your feedback on how I'm answering the questions well and how I could improve. So that we can keep moving quickly, please type the feedback in the chat box as we go along. So we're going to do this a couple times, so keep the feedback coming. I'll prompt you whenever we need more, or whenever we want you to offer a little bit more feedback.
And I also want to mention that the interviewing format that we're using is called the context, action, and result interview format. So pretty much we provide a context and would highlight a few actions and what are the results that we've had at a previous organization. So pretty much at this time, we'll be going into the role play about this time. So I'm going to start and ask Teresa. Hi, Teresa. Thank you for responding to our interview request, and we are very excited about the possibility of joining us as an LDI Africa Fellow.
Thank you so much, Becca. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me today.
Great. Can you start by telling us about your most recent work experience?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for that question. So I previously worked this past year in Nakuru, Kenya, where I was working in a pre-primary school in the Rwanda slums. So in this role, I was responsible for organizing the daily activities for the street kids ranging from 2 to all the way up to 11. In addition to working with the children, I was responsible for developing long-term fundraising strategies and budgets. I really enjoyed this experience because I learned a lot. I developed great relationships and helped out a lot with the teachers and the children.
Great, and thank you for sharing that. So at this point, we want you guys to everyone to send in feedback you might have about the response she gave. Did you think she said anything she could have done better? Do you have any suggestions, or it was just perfect? So I'm gonna see how. I hope this goes well this time around. We mess this up. And okay, so let us see the questions coming in. So again, the question is that based on Teresa's response to my question, does anybody has any feedback? Okay, so while I wait for that to come in, I'm just going to say that I think generally I think it was great that you were able to tell us about your experience in Kenya and the activities that you did. What I first was liking was that it was more about your responsibilities than more of the action and than the contribution you made to these Kenyan organizations. You also spoke about the fact that you formed great relationships, and I believe that is great, but what was the changes or the transformation that happened either to yourself or to the group or to the community that this project was designed to impact? Those are the things I would have loved for you to talk about while describing your most recent work experience. So maybe if we can do it again and you can put in those comment or feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So hi Teresa, thank you for responding to our interview request. We're very excited with the prospects of having you on that team as an LDI Africa Fellow.
Great, thank you so much, Benga. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me today.
So can you start by telling us about your most recent work experience?
Absolutely, thank you so much for that question. So this past year, I was working in the slums of Nakuru, Kenya. I was working specifically in a pre-primary school called Hope Children's Ministry. So while there, I noticed that many of the slum schools were too reliant on handouts and donations and crippled their own sustainability. So while working there, I identified an opportunity to create long-term sustainability for the pre-primary schools all throughout the slums. In doing this, I collaborated with the administration along with local authorities to co-create a new community-based initiative called Matumaini, which developed and managed income-generating activities. It focused on sustainability projects, and so the community and the pre-primary schools could develop and manage their own income-generating activities such as poultry, agriculture, and teacher training, along with developing long-term partnerships and sponsors abroad so that we could sponsor 18 kids off the street and into boarding school. To enable the success, I've forged relationships with donors all over the world, including banks, schools, and churches, to create long-term collaborative partnerships. I developed a basic fundraising accounting system in collaboration with the teachers and the administration of the school so that the donations were managed and utilized efficiently. As a result, in the first year, we were able to buy 200 chickens for the poultry project so that they could use the chickens and sell the eggs as an income-generating activity. And currently we have 5 of the 18 children sponsored and into boarding schools.
Wow, that was amazing. It was way, greater than the first ones. And I like the fact that you told the story. You told the story of what the situation was, and you coming into the situation, and in collaboration with the team, what you were able to accomplish together. I also saw clearly that you focused more on the outcomes, on the contributions, on the partnerships, on the synergies, the procurements that you make, the fundraising activities that you did. Not only did you do fundraising, but you actually secured contributions, and that contribution secured some resources. So you were able to highlight all through all of this important aspects of that particular project and the results that you were able to achieve. So I think one of the implicit underlying question that most interviewers are asking when they ask you, can you tell us about your experience? What they're actually implying is, how can you help our organization? How can you add value to our organization? No one will say that in the interview, but that is the idea. So I think this is your opportunity to say, to make yourself and make a case and say, in my previous experience, this is what I did. And given that opportunity, I can transfer this into your organization as well. And these are the things that I thought it was actually accomplished. And so that was pretty great. One more thing I just thought was a little bit missing was that, as I said, was that I think you focused more on the actions, but you touched a little bit on the results, but I want to see you elaborate more on the result as you close that particular feedback or that particular question. You touched upon it. These are the things with the outcomes, but I want to see it a bit like captured. And is it possible like you just add a little bit and say, and focus more on the results, potentially how that result can affect the host organization?
Absolutely. So in following, as I mentioned, my work in Kenya, we learned a lot about developing long-term sustainable relationships. So during this experience, I learned how to build partnerships all across the world that add value and long-term value for everyone. I found that it was really important for partnerships to not only benefit one party, but to benefit everyone involved. I regularly identified large and small needs and created solutions to these problems. And I learned a lot about what goes into fundraising and the procurement of funds and how they're allocated and utilized so that they're able to be maintained long-term and sustainably, so that they don't just end up being handouts that are used and you have to turn around the next day and do it again. So I think all of these skills would enable me to help your organization grow and create usable partnerships all across the world.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So at this point, I think we would switch the roles and you can ask me questions, I guess you respond.
Great. So Benga, thank you for taking the time and responding to our interview request. Would you be able to tell us a little bit more about your most recent work experience?
Sure, thank you for the opportunity to interview as an Area Africa Fellow. My most recent work experience happened here in Washington, D.C. It was with a group of 50 nonprofit leaders from around the world. I was responsible for creating a training program for leaders, for the nonprofit leaders to acquire the U.S. nonprofit management best practices. I was able to form key partnerships and mobilize the needed financial resources for this organization so they can continue the work that they're doing in their community. It was an amazing experience. I learned a lot. I met a lot of people. I met a lot of very successful international nonprofit leaders. They are doing great work, and also supported organizations in the program, through the program rather.
Great, thank you so much. So at this point, we are going to check and see if we have any feedback from any of you viewers.
I'm not sure the questions are coming in, so we just have to...
So I'll criticize you.
Yeah.
All right, so I like the way that Benga addressed and introduced himself. He definitely right off the bat shared his value and what makes him specifically interesting as a candidate. As Benga mentioned earlier, we have the context, action, and results format that I like to see. So the context is about one sentence, and then we want the action to be the main body. So in this, I'd like you to just try one more time.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity to interview. And talking about my most recent experience, I work in Washington, D.C. With a group of 50 nonprofit leaders from various African countries. My goal was to help these leaders better understand the US business approach of running a nonprofit organization and how they can utilize this approach back in their own countries. To accomplish this, I was able to secure funding from Motorola Foundation to create a nonprofit management training program that highlights the leadership system of 10 high impact, high performing US nonprofit. This organization includes the Susan G. Komen for the Cure, Ashoka, the UN Foundation, and a host of others. These leaders gain practical insight on how US nonprofits work and go about their sustainability. As a result, we were able to develop a strategy for expanding their revenue options, which included crowdfunding, corporate sponsorship, fee-for-service models. The partner organizations in the program was able to partner with these nonprofit leaders, and they were able to implement projects in 20 African countries.
Great. So that was a lot better. It was a lot more specific. It showed me what he did. It showed me kind of him as a person. It showed me his drive and his motivation and the action that it took to get the results that he wanted. It also shows me the skills that he's developed in his experiences and how they have shaped him as a person, as a candidate that'll be relevant to my organization. So as we mentioned earlier, it's nice to round off the end of that with a closing sort of how you're more relevant to me. So what Benga did is he showed what he has done, what the results that have come from his actions, but I want to see how it's going to be relevant to my organization and how his skills will become an asset to me specifically. So with that, can you just sort of add a little bit of a closing dialogue?
Sure. So during this experience, I was able to learn how to help nonprofit develop a sustainability model that increases their donor base and amplify the impact internationally. These skills would enable me to expand your organization's work beyond East Africa and broaden its income generation options beyond its current donor base.
Great, thank you so much. That really was really helpful. So at this point, Ben is going to go over a few skill-related questions and how to respond to them.
Great, and so at this point, I think one of the very common closing questions that an interviewer is going to ask you is, why should we hire you? In the selection board experience, the question was, why do you want to become an LDI Africa Fellow? Why now? And that question could be, the verbiage could be in different forms, but basically, you want to make a case why this organization, why you are uniquely qualified for this particular position. But before that, I will talk about the skills that you bring to the organization. I'm going to talk about the skill aspect. And in the selection board questions, the question you were asked was, can you name your top 3 strongest transferable skills? And what we found out was a lot of people responded with soft skills. Skills such as I work hard, I'm a quick learner, I'm a people person, very analytical, I'm very detail-oriented. I would believe these are great and absolutely essential to succeeding on a job. But the answer that we think that would actually be preferred and would make more difference is if you can concentrate on the hard skills. So basically, we're looking for transferable skill set. This is skills you can take from one organization and apply it to another organization. So rather than focus on the soft skills like analytical skills, communication skills, we just wanted to talk about skills such as fundraising, social media coordination, market research, partnership building, market, accounting, finance. These are very tangible, specific hard skills that you can transfer. One thing that I would even recommend is for you to be even more specific. For example, If you said that you have fundraising skills, I would even say specifically crowdfunding and grant proposal writing, because fundraising can happen in various guises. So be more specific. If you say you have skills in finance, you might want to add like financial modeling and due diligence. If you say you have skills in marketing, you might want to add branding and search engine optimization. So being specific goes a long way. Again, the idea here is that you highlight your specific skill set and your hard skill set you can transfer to an organization. One of the things that you can also do, if you think that you have, for example, I happen to have what you can consider a soft skill, which is networking. And a lot of organizations look for ability for you to tap into existing network, or if necessary, create a new network. So if you think that you have a soft skill that will be relevant for that job that you are interviewing for, you can go ahead and have just one soft skill, but however, ensure that you concentrate on your hard skills that you're bringing to that organization. So at this point, I'll talk about why should we hire you, and why should we hire you is very important. As I said, many organizations would ask you differently. For LDI, we would say, why are you uniquely qualified as an LDI Africa Fellow, or why do you want to become an LDI Africa Fellow? So when you ask this question, this is an opportunity to sell yourself. This is an opportunity to actually create your own pitch. This is an opportunity for you to differentiate yourself from the competition. So go ahead and put your best foot forward. Go ahead and market yourself. This is not a time to be modest with your skill. You don't want to be too excessive about it, but understand that for one position that you have, they also have other candidates they are considering. And this is a chance for you to say, this is why I'm uniquely qualified for this position. So go ahead and sell yourself. You can also mention relevant industry experience that you have. You might want to talk about your personal values, your skills, your accomplishment, and the knowledge of the organization that Teresa was alluding to, having done your research. If you are interviewing for organization in the impact investing space, and you have worked with organization in the past that has microfinance, in the microfinance industry, go ahead and talk about that. You can talk about your personal values. You can talk about your unique skills, the accomplishments that you've had, and we'll do a role play game, and then we'll talk about this. But go ahead and mention those in that closing question of why should we hire you. You can state up to 3 reasons why you think you're qualified for positions. You can go 1, 2, 3. These are the top 3 reasons I think you should hire me. The format I would recommend is, this is the one that I found very helpful, is I will go ahead first and list those 3 reasons, and then I will back it up with some data, with some explanation, or with some illustration afterwards. But I'll go ahead and say these are the top 3, and then I'll elaborate later. But I'll do it very concisely. Match your qualifications also to this requirement for the position on the job description. So the job description will tell you the qualifications, the requirement for this position. If you have experience related to that, go ahead and say that from the job description, I realize that these are the top 3 skill sets that you require, and have distinguished myself in that capacity, and go ahead and highlight how you distinguish yourself in that capacity. Again, it's often said that first impression is very important, but in this case, it's the last impression the final impression that you have to leave with this organization. And it's very important that you do not ramble, just go straight to the point. This is not a question you should guess that it might come or might not come. It would come. So go ahead and prepare for that question. Why should we hire you? And go ahead and state your reasons. So we'll try to do a role play. And in the role play, we're talking about why do you want to be an LDI Africa Fellow, or why do you want to work for an organization that you had a chance to, the question you had the chance to answer with the selection board. So Teresa is going to go ahead and ask me the question, and I'll give answers. And if you're able to use the Q&A, please go ahead. We're not getting enough questions. I don't know if it's disabled or not, but if it's working, please go ahead and utilize that. Okay.
All right. Well, Benga, thank you for telling us a little bit about yourself. At this point, I would just really like to know, why do you want to be an LDI Africa Fellow and work for our organization?
Thank you very much for the question. Over the past 5 years, I've dedicated my professional career to helping nonprofits outlive their founders by leveraging technology and operating as a business and accessing multiple donor base. My recent work experience with 50 African nonprofits has given me the insights on how nonprofits in Africa can be better positioned as the implementation partner of the CSR program of many African corporations and scale their impact internationally. Fortunately, these are the key goals of the positions I've been interviewing for, which I believe my experience is well suited for. As the program manager and LD Africa Fellow, I'll be able to design and implement a West African program expansion strategy, as well as a sustainability plan that will incorporate crowdfunding, corporate sponsorship, as well as accessing different revenue options for your African fellowship program.
Great, thank you so much. That was really informative. So at this point, I just want to discuss the pros and the cons of Benga's answer. So he discussed, you know, his drive, his passion, and what makes him, what he thinks the perfect person for this this fellowship. So that is ideal. We want, as interviewers, we want to see what makes you you. We want to see what makes you different and unique, and what you dedicate your time and your life to. Something that I felt was missing only slightly, I just have to find a critique, was that I would like to see a little bit more of relevancy to LDI's Africa sponsorships, fellowships specifically. So sometimes, as I mentioned earlier, it's really interesting when a candidate mentions our mission, or, you know, what we do specifically, say they've read the job description, and sometimes if they pull pieces out of that and incorporate it into their answer, that's going to really stand out to me, because it means that they really identify with what we're looking for. As far as that goes, though, Benga did mention our specific West Africa program and the expansion and the sustainability plans that he feels that he would be best qualified to help us with. So that being said, I think that he did really a great job, and that's probably a perfect answer.
Well, thank you very much for that. And finding one critic about my response and highlighting that. And, great. I think it's very important to, as you said, try to connect it to either the mission or some kind of stated need for that position. And I think I can do a better job at that. But thank you for pointing that out. So at this point, so Teresa, so why should we hire you as an LD Africa Fellow?
Well, Benga, as I mentioned, through my work in Kenya and my experience in business school and my training, I feel that I possess the skills and am still building the skills and the knowledge that enable me to contribute to due diligence for the potential new collaborations and partnerships that are going on in your fellowship. I believe that my experience has taught me what to look for in successful nonprofits and relationships, be it in business or in the nonprofit sector. As I mentioned earlier, I found that I have an eye for being able to see an opportunity and to capitalize on a need and to follow through with action and, you know, see through a result. As far as your fellowship goes, I am really interested in giving emerging institutions all throughout the world an opportunity to benefit from a pro bono consulting opportunity in order to become a force to be reckoned with and compete in the global marketplace. I believe that my skills and my passion about social development and business collaboration in Africa would be really useful to your fellowship program. And I'm really excited by the opportunity to work with you and your team to determine how to best help businesses on the continent.
I think that was fantastic. I like the fact that you demonstrated your experience in the region. One of the things that some candidates assume because it's stated on their resume, on the cover letter, the interviewer automatically should know. But you still went ahead to highlight the fact that I was in Kenya, and in this community, these are the things that I did. And because of that, I'm well positioned to continue to support your operations, your expansion on the continent. I also like the fact that you brought to the question not just your educational background, your experience, but you also talk about your work experience as well as intercultural, international, also to the table. And that you're giving me an insight to the fact that you've been a success in this capacity previously, and given the opportunity, you can recreate that success with LDI Africa's program. And I think that was very, very compelling. Lastly, I like the fact that you identified that our tagline at LDI Africa is empowering emerging institutions for global success. And you nailed it when you said that your skills, your experience empowers you or qualifies you to collaborate with us at LDI Africa to empower organizations on the continent we target to be more efficient, to be stronger, and to be much more empowered for their global goals. So, and I think that was pretty well delivered. So I think that brings us to the end of the presentation. Unfortunately, we're not able to get your questions, but we did receive a few questions that are more logistical, and a lot of people might still have challenges with interviewing, but that is no problem. I just want to mention that if you have not been able to have a spot with the selection board, we are now taking interviews on the program team. So we'll definitely schedule an interview with you via email. It would not be on the Calendly platform, but definitely everyone would have the chance to interview with LDI Africa, if not with the selection board. Having said that, we just say thank you for participating in this interview workshop. This presentation, the PowerPoints will be made available to you, and we just encourage you to go through this presentations and do further research, and don't just base this presentation or training as all that you need. You can use this as a template for your further research. Again, I just want to highlight again that we are sending from this week your profiles to various of our host organizations. Having said that, we're not guaranteeing that everyone would have the opportunity of host organization interview, and should you have this opportunity, we encourage you to make the most of it, and we wish you the very best, and we hope that you become the 2015 Summer LDI Africa Fellow. Thank you very much, and we look forward to communicating.
Thank you so much. We'll speak to you soon.
Bye-bye.